What would you like, Nico? I'm here for you. I already have.
We've seen a ton of villains in the Marvel Universe over the last 18 years across 40-plus projects, but that villain lineup is about to grow even more. With the X-Men and Fantastic Four officially joining the MCU in the upcoming films, we're getting closer to finally seeing some iconic Marvel villains who still haven't made their debut on the big screen. 10. Onslaught. Imagine if Magneto and Professor X had a baby, but like a terrifying superpowered one. That's basically Onslaught. He hasn't shown up in any Marvel movies yet, but if he ever does, you can bet it's going to be an all-out action overload. In the comics, it literally took the combined forces of X-Men, Fantastic Four, and the Avengers just to take him down. And with all these teams finally coming together in the next couple of Avengers films, it kind of feels like Marvel could be setting the stage for Onslaught to appear down the line. Maybe not in an Avengers movie, but possibly in an X-Men flick, because let's be real, this guy is seriously powerful. So how did he come to be? Well, during a fight between the X-Men and Magneto's crew, Magneto ripped the adamantium right out of Wolverine's body. Xavier had enough and used his telepathy to shut Magneto's mind off completely. But in that mental clash, Magneto's rage, pain, and thirst for revenge got mixed with Xavier's own buried darkness, and boom, Onslaught was born. Eventually, Onslaught becomes his own being, takes over Xavier, then captures him and also nabs Nate Gray. His plan? Use Nate's powers to fuse all human minds into one massive hive mind. Wild, right? To stop him, a bunch of Avengers and the Fantastic Four members literally throw themselves into Onslaught's energy form, destroying him in the process. Plot twist, they didn't die, they ended up in a secret pocket universe made by Franklin Richards, with no memory of who they were. Onslaught is basically a supercharged nightmare. He's got the brain power of Professor X and the raw force of Magneto packed into one insanely powerful being. We're talking next-level telepathy, telekinesis, mind control, magnetic field manipulation, energy blasts, you name it, he can probably do it. He can fly, control minds, possess others, mess with reality, and even absorb other mutants into himself. Oh, and if he feels like it, he can grow bigger and stronger too. But that's just the start. Once he fully breaks free and becomes his own separate consciousness, kicking Xavier out of his mind in the astral plane, he levels up. And this time, he's not just a psychic powerhouse, he goes full cybernetic and taps into the insane powers of both Franklin Richards and Nate Gray. With that kind of cosmic boost, he's practically a god. He can reshape matter, bend reality however he wants, and sees everything like some kind of all-knowing entity. So, yeah, if this guy ever makes it to the MCU, it's gonna be chaos. 9. Arcade. Arcade popped up in Marvel Comics back in 1978, and he's still one of the weirdest and most unpredictable villains around. No one really knows his real name or where exactly he came from. His backstory changes depending on who's telling it. Sometimes he says he grew up rich on a Texas ranch, other times in a Beverly Hills mansion. Either way, when he hit adulthood and his dad cut off his money, Arcade responded by straight up killing him and inheriting the fortune. He started off as a regular assassin, traveling the world and taking out targets in boring everyday ways. But that got old fast. So, tapping into his talent for tech and flair for the theatrical, he built Murder World, a deadly underground funhouse rigged with wild traps, fake amusement park rides, and all kinds of flashy ways to die. With help from his assistants, Miss Locke and Mr. Chambers, Arcade transformed into the world's most eccentric and expensive hitman. He'd charge $1 million to design custom death traps tailored to his victims' weaknesses. But here's the twist. He always leaves a tiny chance for escape. Not because he's merciful, but because he thinks it's more fun that way. One time when someone begged him to just make the death quick and painless, he laughed and said, "Decency's dull. My way they've got a chance. Not much of one, but a chance." Arcade made his villain debut trying to kill Spider-Man and Captain Britain, and since then, he's gone after tons of heroes, often in pairs. He's clashed with X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force, Excalibur, and individuals like Gambit, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and even Iron Man and The Thing. Basically, if you're a Marvel hero, chances are Arcade has tried to trap you in a giant deadly pinball machine at some point. Calling Arcade one of Marvel's most dangerous villains might sound like a stretch, and honestly, for years, he was more of a joke than a threat. But recently, that's changed. There are two big reasons why he suddenly deserves some serious respect. First up is Murder World. It's not just a gimmick anymore, it's a full-on death trap playground that could easily become one of the MCU's wildest and deadliest settings. And if Marvel wanted to get cheeky, they could even nod to Disney's own theme parks in the design. Just imagine a twisted, killer version of a Disney-style amusement park. Yeah, creepy and awesome. The second reason? Avengers Arena. That storyline took Arcade to a whole new level. Using high-end tech, he pretty much became a god inside Murder World, forcing a bunch of young heroes to fight to the death in a Hunger Games-style setup. It was brutal, intense, and it showed just how dangerous he can be when given the right tools. Honestly, with the young Avengers rumored to be on the way in the MCU, Arcade could be the perfect villain to throw at them. He's flashy, unpredictable, and deadly in a way that's more psychological than just brute force. Whether it's a movie or a Disney Plus series, there's definitely room for Arcade to shine and terrify. 8. Aries. Aries might not be as well known in the MCU yet, but in Marvel Comics, he's one of the most intense mythology-based characters out there. Think of him as the Greek god of war with a serious grudge and god-tier powers to back it up. While Thor and Hercules brought Norse and Greek myths into Marvel early on, Aries adds a darker, more aggressive edge to that world. He's always felt like an outsider among the Olympians, partly because, in today's world, war isn't exactly glamorized anymore. He especially hates that Hercules keeps getting all the mortal praise. After trying to overthrow Olympus, Ares was kicked out and sent to Earth, where he set his sights on destroying Hercules and the Avengers using sheer force and tactical genius. Ares is no joke. He's insanely strong, up there with Zeus and Hercules, and nearly impossible to kill. He doesn't age, doesn't get sick, and he can shrug off attacks that would destroy most beings. He can sense gods, demons, and magic, and in rare moments, he even manipulated time and dimensions. He's also one of the best fighters in the Marvel Universe, skilled in both ancient weaponry and modern-day warfare. Basically, if it can kill, Ares has mastered it. He's not just a one-note villain either. During Dark Reign, he actually joined the Dark Avengers as a Thor-like figure. He's walked the line between villain and anti-hero, which makes him perfect for a complex MCU storyline. With Thor Love and Thunder opening the door to more godly realms, Ares could be next in line for the big screen. All Marvel needs is a serious tone and the right director to bring out his raw power and inner conflict. He could easily become one of the most compelling and dangerous new faces in the MCU. 7. Morgan Le Fay. Morgan Le Fay is a classic Marvel villain who's been around for a while. She was created by Stan Lee and Joe Maneely and is based on the legendary sorceress from Arthurian lore. In the Marvel Universe, she's a half-fairy, half-human magical being, and yep, she's King Arthur's half-sister. Thanks to her elven side, she's immortal and has spent centuries mastering magic. She's not just sitting around either. Morgan's tried to take over the world more than once. She's clashed with the Avengers and even battled Spider-Woman back in the 1970s. She's also had a complicated relationship with Dr. Doom. They even have a daughter together and was once part of a dark magic group called the Darkholders. As of now, she hasn't officially entered the MCU, but that could change, especially Dr. Doom showing up soon. Now, technically, she did appear in live action already. Elizabeth Hurley played her in Season 3 of Hulu's Runaways. But since that show's MCU status is kind of murky, most fans agree she hasn't really had her proper MCU debut yet. Morgan would be a great mystical threat for the Avengers. She's insanely powerful and has ties to characters like Black Knight, Captain Britain, and even Psylocke. She's not just any sorceress either. She trained under Merlin, has crazy mind control powers, can mess with the elements and astral plane, shapeshift, heal, and even bring the dead back. She can be everywhere at once, change reality, bind people with spells like the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, and travel through time. She's basically immortal too. Even when she's been destroyed, she finds a way to come back. At one point, The Eye of Agamotto even thought she might take over for Doctor Strange as Sorcerer Supreme. All in all, she's a magical powerhouse with serious MCU potential. 6. The Squadron Sinister. The Squadron Sinister made their first appearance back in 1969 in Avengers comics. They were created as the Grandmaster's team in a showdown against Kang the Conqueror and the Avengers. This group, Hyperion, Dr. Spectrum, Nighthawk, and the Wizard, were basically Marvel's twist on DC's Justice League, mirroring Superman, Green Lantern, Batman, and the Flash. Over time, Nighthawk broke away and actually became a hero, joining the Defenders and going up against his old teammates. The others, like Hyperion, have also taken a more heroic path at times, but during big crossover events like Secret Wars, they've returned to their bad guy roots. What makes the Squadron Sinister super interesting is that they're the closest thing Marvel has to a Justice League. So, while a real Marvel vs. DC movie might never happen, these guys could give fans the next best thing. Their villainous beginnings, mixed with their later heroic turns as the Squadron Supreme, gives them tons of story potential. In fact, they played a huge role in the Heroes Reborn storyline, where reality got flipped and they were suddenly the only superhero team around. That kind of alternate reality setup could work great in the MCU and shake things up in a really exciting way. Number 5. The Inheritors. The Inheritors are a deadly family of totem hunters from Earth-001 who feed on the life force of powerful beings tied to animal, human, and even godly totems. They kicked off their rise by capturing the spider deity known as the Master Weaver on Earth-000, though it cost them their matriarch, thanks to Karn hesitating in battle. As punishment, their leader Solus made Karn wear a mask and exiled him until he could redeem himself. With the Master Weaver under their control, the Inheritors took over Earth-001 and started jumping across dimensions, targeting spider totems, basically anyone in the multiverse with spider powers, since a prophecy warned that these spider-powered heroes could one day bring them down. In the Spider-Verse comics, the situation gets so bad that Earth-616's Peter Parker has to gather an army of spider heroes from across the multiverse to take the Inheritors down and save the Web of Life and Destiny from being destroyed. Now here's the wild part. Despite the huge success of the animated Spider-Verse movies and how central Peter Parker has been to the MCU's multiverse storylines, we still haven't seen Morlun or the rest of the Inheritors show up in live action. Sure, a full-on live-action Spider-Verse movie might be tough to pull off, but these villains could totally work as a major multiversal threat. 4. Corvac. Michael Corvac lives in the year 3007 AD and is known for betraying humanity. After Earth gets invaded by the Badoon, he switches sides and works for them. But when he messes up on the job, they punish him in a brutal way. They cut off the lower half of his body and fuse what's left of him to a supercomputer. Now a cyborg, he's able to absorb energy from pretty much anywhere. Later, the Grand Master grabs him from his timeline to pit him against the Defenders. Corvac's cybernetic body is seriously powerful. It can absorb and repurpose all kinds of energy, and it's packed with hidden weapons. Things get even crazier when he taps into Galactus's ship, downloads its knowledge, and steals the power cosmic. With that, he can shoot energy blasts, warp reality, teleport, travel through time, and even shift into an astral form. Even when he turns back into a human, he keeps all these godlike powers. On top of that, Corvac is a genius with computers, a top-tier strategist, and can hold his own in a fight. Once he gets his hands on a piece of the Elder's power and the full force of the power cosmic, he decides to reshape Earth into a utopia on his terms. That forces the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy to team up and try to stop him before he goes full God mode. It's kinda wild that the MCU hasn't touched the Corvac saga yet. This storyline was one of Marvel's earliest and most epic crossovers, uniting the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy. With that kind of legacy, you'd expect Corvac to at least get a quick name drop somewhere in the MCU, but so far, nothing. While Doctor Doom is currently positioned as the big bad of the multiverse saga, Corvac could easily slot in as a major threat. And honestly, he doesn't even need to be built up over 5 movies. A single focused film, or maybe 2, could do justice to his story. especially if they go all in on the cosmic scale of his power. He's a villain with god-level abilities and a complex motive, which would make for a fresh, intense storyline. 3. Nightmare. Nightmare made his debut back in Strange Tales number 110 as the first big villain Doctor Strange ever faced. Since then, he's only gotten more powerful. He rules over the creepy dream dimension, dragging people into his realm while they sleep. He rides around on a demonic black horse named Dreamstalker and looks like a pale guy with wild green hair, a green suit, and a torn-up cape. The first time Strange crossed paths with him, it was because a man haunted by dreams came to Strange, though the real reason for the nightmares was that the guy had committed murder. Later, Nightmare attacks Strange when he forgot to cast a protective spell, but Strange managed to outsmart him with an illusion trick. Nightmare's actually a demon from a place called Everin, the same dimension as another creepy being, the Dweller in Darkness. His power is tied to people's dreams. If humanity stopped dreaming, he'd vanish, but that would also drive everyone insane. At one point, even Doctor Strange had to team up with him to keep that disaster from happening. 2. Blackheart. Blackheart has a pretty wild spot in Marvel's lineup. He first showed up in Daredevil back in 1989 and is basically Mephisto's son, created from the dark energy of a murder-ridden New York town. He tried to learn the ropes of evil from dear old dad, but got kicked down to Earth after botching a mission. Instead of laying low, Blackheart decided to make a power grab and take over hell itself, dragging a few heroes into the mess along the way. Even after that stunt, he eventually got back on Mephisto's good side and became one of his go-to enforcers. Since then, he's tried multiple times to unleash hell on Earth. Power-wise, Blackheart is no joke. He's got insane supernatural abilities, super strength, speed, magical endurance, telekinesis, telepathy, teleportation, shape-shifting, dimension hopping, self-healing at the submolecular level, and the ability to blast out destructive energy. He's also a genius strategist and can summon entire demon armies from hell. Oh, and the guy has no soul, which makes him immune to Ghost Rider's penance stare. 1. Annihilus. Hiding out between dimensions is the Negative Zone, an antimatter universe that's home to the deadly Annihilation Wave. This massive army is made up of various alien species from the Negative Zone, and they've been responsible for wiping out entire galaxies in Earth 616's universe. At the head of this chaos is Annihilus, a creepy insect-like overlord who's obsessed with living forever. Armed with the cosmic control rod and something called the opposing force, Annihilus is always scheming to invade the positive matter universe and steal the power cosmic for himself. He's seriously dangerous. Annihilus can fly on his own, survive in space, and has an armored exoskeleton that makes him super tough to injure. His physical powers are off the charts, and with his rod, he can manipulate energy and matter while slowing his aging. While he doesn't always jump into fights personally, when he does, he's beaten heavy hitters like The Thing, Thor, Nova Prime, Quasar, and Ballastar. No problem. Well, that wraps up the first few villains on our list. Which Marvel villain do you think deserves to make their big screen debut next? Drop your pick in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss part 2 and more updates on the MCU's future. We'll catch you in the next one.